I am so delighted to have this fabulous, amazing woman as my guest today, Jacquie Grillon. She's a Renaissance woman. I've known her for years. We have mutual friends. She has reinvented herself over and over and over, and she is a fearless, badass, sober sister. Jacquie, I'm so happy that you're here. Welcome. Welcome,
Oh,
welcome.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm honored that you asked. Thank you.
Yay! Cool, cool, cool. Well, let's talk. So, if people don't know, you're a healer, you speak, you do all kinds of things, you travel. Tell us a little bit about what had you start on your path of being a healer.
Probably my own healing. I didn't know that at the time. I think I was just attracted to all things energy healing and things like that. But I later found out that it was basically to save myself.
Right. I love that. So, do you mind sharing a little bit about some of the things that you had to overcome as a teen and young woman?
Oh, sure. Okay. The upbringing was, what I considered normal, only to find out later was anything but normal. And so coming back from that, I grew up questioning my sanity. So there's a lot of trauma that goes into when you question your sanity. You have zero sense of self, and you kind of take on and be a chameleon and take on the roles of what everybody in life kind of assigns you, the roles they assign you. And so that's a great setup to be a people pleaser and to live your life from the outside, seeking validation, from the
Oh,
outside. Please love me, pick me, include me, all of those kinds of things. It's a disaster in the making, but it's very freeing when you can, walk through that.
wow, that's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I grew up in a similar dysfunctional family, and when crazy things are happening and they tell you nothing is happening, it's you go, when that happens to you over and over and over again, water is not wet, concrete is
Right.
not hard, whatever. You go, okay,
Yeah, it
and
must be me. It must be me.
it must be
Right.
me. I'm the problem. It's me. I'm the problem. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
I could so relate. And I have 24 years sobriety, but I always feel like there's another addiction. I'm like, dang, like I'm a love addict. What the hell? Like
Me too.
food,
Me too.
drugs, alcohol, like those are like, I mean, you have to dance with the devil every day when it's a food thing, but I'm like
Sure.
validation addict. Like that's been my latest aha of like how much of my life am I doing from a place of seeking validation, you know?
Yeah, so that's probably the toughest one, because if I'm always seeking the outside, if I need you to love me, like that's a lot of power that you're giving away on the regular. You're not giving anything to yourself, and you don't know any better because nobody taught you it's an inside job. And even when, like, you're in recovery as well, so you understand, even when they tell you it's an inside job there, it's a very long process from the head to the heart, as you know. And going through that, it's usually emotional pain that makes you or forces you or life levels you into even having to do any of the work to go inside to begin with. So, things like, and I so identify with what you said about being a love addict. When I was in therapy and she said that I was a love addict, I was like, what do you mean? And she said,
Right.
you like to live in fantasy. And I would always I would fall in love with guys' potential, not who they actually were, which was kind
Oh, oh,
of, it was actually harder to grieve them at the end, because I wasn't grieving the actual person or the actual relationship, because I wasn't even in that relationship. I was in the relationship in my head of what I hoped and wanted and wished it so much it would be, and it just never was. And I feel like it's harder to grieve things like that. And it also feeds back into the upbringing of that didn't happen, and you're wrong, and you're crazy, and you're this. So you're again questioning your sanity even in that state.
Wow. I feel like that's like drop the mic. What you just said. I feel like you just described every relationship. Like I would fall in love with the potential. Oh, you're an out of work actor with bad credit and emotional
I'll fix
issues. Move
it.
in with me. I'll
Right.
fix you. Because I and there is I still have that tendency to want to focus on everybody else and abandoning myself. And
Yep.
so I mean this is just vibing with me so much. And so Jackie, I love and you work with women who, maybe they have long-term sobriety, or maybe that wasn't an issue, but maybe they have the love addict, the potential, I see his potential, or the validation seeking person who tell us, can you tell us, changing the names, but can you tell us a story of somebody who you've coached and advised or healed?
Sure. All right. So I go to many different 12-step programs, and through therapy, my own therapy and my own having to learn to come back to and love myself, that's kind of where inadvertently I found I actually like helping other people. I'm not sitting here preaching that I'm going to teach anybody anything, but what I help to do, I feel like I label myself like a transformation expert because that's what I've done for myself. But when I'm working with others, it's basically to help them do the deep dives, to go to the places inside that we don't want to go, that we're terrified to go, and to have, I can hold space for that because I've gone to those places. I feel like as coaches and healers and even as therapists, if they have not done their work, they can't go to those places. And so when you have done that work, you can hold space for other people to do those deep dives. So
Mm.
sometimes just sitting with people and letting them see themselves and reflecting all of that back to them, they come to their own realizations. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm not trying to, if I can inspire and hold space for people to remember who they are, that's what brings me joy. I didn't realize that would be a joy. I didn't like walking through any of the things that I needed to walk through. But when you experience the freedom and the peace and the joy on the other side, that's when you know it's worth it. And when you see the light come on in anybody's eyes who starts to connect their own dots, that's life-changing. That's why I'm in the game. That's why I want to do that. So as far as like a personal transformation story, there was one woman, and she had a lot of stuff mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And I feel like every job I've ever had has kind of led me to this as well, even recovery, because you sponsor people. And then, I was a drug counselor, right? So I feel like you always have your counselor hat on at some point. And this one lady, she needed to lose a lot of weight. She didn't have any self-esteem. She was burnt out from work and her family, and she was a big people pleaser. And even just working with her and helping to help her remember to feel good about herself and to give herself her own atta-girls and that she did it and things like that. Like my grandson, he's 3 years old. And every time he does something, I love him because he goes, I did it, I did it. And that's kind of what we doing in the coaching world, right? We're basically showing people to find their own, like, I did it, I did it. It's not coming from us. It's coming from them doing their own work, connecting their own dots. And that you can't put a price on. That's just like watching somebody's eyes light up when they know they did it, or they found it, or they feel good about themselves and they have the confidence to move forward. I feel like that's what it's all about. So anyway, long story long, she lost 100 pounds. She got her mojo back. She quit her job, and now she's doing what she wants to do, which, believe it or not, is just, but for her, it's priceless. She's got her own online business. She's like making quilts and all these things and whatever else. But for her, that was huge. Like, she's not to her job. She's not a slave to her weight. She's not a slave to any of that. And she did all of that herself. Like, I didn't do anything. I spent time with her. Yes, I help encourage and uplift and hold space and, and help her achieve her goals and help her, keep accountable and things like that. But I don't like, I would do this stuff for free. That's the crazy part. I mean, we all deserve to be paid, for our time and what we're worth and things like that. And I'll not teach about it, but help to show others that they're deserving to be paid what they're worth and things like that. So I know time does have a dollar amount on it, but for real, if I didn't need to earn a living, I would just do this for free because it feels good in my soul.
I love it, and I have VIPs, and then I have I sponsor people. There's all different range because I just think I get moved to tears. Like that's such a beautiful story, and like she's living her best life, which to somebody else might be like whatever, but like that is huge. And I always think, Jackie, like what would be possible if every human being had a sponsor or a coach or a mentor cheering them on instead of the
Right.
bullies? Like what could
Yes.
we could heal the planet. Nobody would be hungry. Nobody would be homeless. Like what would be possible if we were all coming from our highest selves, growing into our highest potential instead of knocking each other down,
I know.
So
Oh, you know what the hardest thing is though, Elaine, is that even though there are outside bullies, because like I said, I lived myself from the outside in most of my life. When I finally did come inside and realize that I was the one who was abandoning myself, and then I had to face the fact that I was also bullying myself. Even though I learned it from outside sources, I continue sometimes to be the hardest critic on myself to this day. So that will always be something that I need to work on. I am harder on myself than anyone ever could be. And it's good and bad. It's a double-edged sword in so many ways. I've definitely learned to give myself grace and time and allowing my resistance and allowing the process to unfold. But then there's other times where I'm like, why isn't this happening quick enough? And why can't I do things that other people can do, And it's interesting what we do in our own heads, but we're our own worst critic. And that's why it really does begin, and end with us, and really having a solid sense of self.
That's so true. And I think that's, you said you hold the space, we create the container. And so if you grow up in dysfunction or trauma, and who didn't to some degree,
For sure.
it's, we learn it from school and family and all the things. When I spoke on college campuses for years, I used to say, we would never be friends with somebody who spoke to us the way we speak to ourselves. And they would be like, how does she know? And it's so human. And, I have a joke. I'll be like, ooh, the self-hatred is strong today, But I know, like, when I'm working my program, when I'm sleeping, meditating, praying, and, coming from ego, that is just the most painful place for me when I'm in compare despair, or, freaking out that I'm not going to get what I want, or going to lose what I have.
Right.
That can just put me in that just state of hate. It's not even like low self-talk. It's like loathing self-hatred. Like, ugh, not fun.
No, yes, I totally agree. And I also, when those thoughts come in, and they do, like, I have a mind that lies to me, and that took a really long time to learn. And you know what? I did learn that in 12-step programs, and I'm glad that I did, because I used to believe everything I thought. And that used to get me in trouble, because I thought first of all, everything I thought was correct, and it wasn't. And then when I realized that everything that my parents instilled in me was correct, and it wasn't. And once I learned that 99% of the things that I think in my head is not even real, then you start to kind of take what you think with a grain of salt. So now I know when I'm in a low spot, or if I'm not feeling well, or I didn't get enough sleep, or I'm working too hard, and it's late at night and those negative thoughts come in, now I know enough to separate it. And I'm like, listen, I'm not listening to you. Or if I'm sick, especially, like, no, we're not listening to that. Thank you for what you think, but no, I will not be taking that on. Like, we do have a choice when those thoughts do come in. That doesn't mean that they're not going to stop. They're going to stop, but we do have a choice. And that was freeing in and of itself, to not have to listen to every single thing that you think, because it's not true. Most of what I think is, in recovery, as you know, we call it like real or imagined. And there's a lot more imagined in my mind than there is real sometimes. That's why it's even more important to have a solid sense of self, because if you don't, you think that what you think is true. And that's not a good place to be.
And it's like the human condition, like, I know if I'm going to go do a big show or a big speech, a lot of times I have this, I call it my alien. Oh, you look so old today.
Who do you
I see
think
new
you
wrinkles. Your hair is getting thinner by the day. And you're like, and I've just learned, like, oh, I'm just nervous. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And like, I will specifically do like no mirror. Like, I put my makeup on and then I'm like, no more mirror, because I know I'm just going to be like, so I need to get away from the mirrors and think about come from within. What's my commitment? What's my why? Because if I'm focusing on how I look, it's not good. It's
Definitely not good.
I can't win.
Yes. And case in point, like right now, right? You're helping me with learning how to be better on camera. So this whole interview, I'm staring at not you, which is where I want to stare, but I'm staring at that little lens at the top to connect with whoever I'm connecting with, because to me, I can't connect with that little dot, and I'm terrified of any of that. But I will say, during this whole interview, which is the first time I've ever looked at the dot the whole entire time and not you,
and you're doing great.
I am not focusing on how my lip goes sideways when I'm sitting here, or why do I have this tick, or whatever that I would normally be judging the crap out of myself when I normally watch myself on Zoom, because I'm usually connecting with all the other people looking at the pictures or the Hollywood squares and not the lens. So looking at the lens is definitely good for not beating the crap out of myself right now. So thank you for that, coach.
That's awesome. And on the other platform that starts with a Z, Zoom, you can hide your self view if you want. And so, if you've sometimes I'm on Zoom like all day, every day. And so sometimes it's nice to just get a break of like, this is how I look, whatever, because when we're having coffee in real life, we're talking to the other person. We're not going, oh, why did I wear this shirt or whatever?
You're not getting it reflected back at you. You're just talking. You're not looking at yourself the whole time. So thank you for that. I did not even know Zoom technology that you could even do that. So thank you for that.
It's a gift.
Again, Zoom on the regular.
Yeah, right. And sometimes this is great to have a break from yourself. I studied Meisner acting in New York, and one of the biggest things is like focusing 100% on your partner, on what you're trying to get from them. And so when we focus on the partner or the camera or the audience, the attention is off of ourselves. So we're not so self-conscious, right? So like, and you can see it. You have grandkids, which cracks me up because you look like you're 40 to me.
Well, like, thank you so much, but definitely not 40. plus like, I'm like 40 plus tax.
Right. 40 plus tax. I love that. That's funny. But like little kids, when they're little and free, they're like, I want the candy. They'll make a scene. They're not they have not been socialized.
And they don't care.
And they don't care. They're free. And that's why they're great little actors.
I love it.
Natural actors, right? And sometimes they're amazing dancers, and you're like, I don't know how they even learned that, because they're just free in their bodies. And then the minute they start to get socialized, you see the constraints come in.
Yeah.
Inside voices, don't say that. Da-da-da-da-da. And you see that, and so that's part of the work that I do, is helping people get rid of those old masks and allowing yourself to be affected, which can make you more reactive in life, but that's what you want on stage. So, Jacquie, another thing I love about you is you're very spiritual, but I don't consider you like, and no offense, but I'm intense. And so when I meet someone who's like, just put everybody in pink bubbles,
those
those air fairy people, I can't. It drives me crazy. And so that's one reason I feel like you are so good working with women who are like super achievers, hyper, triple A. I mean, maybe not hyper, but
I know
So,
what you're saying. I'm a
can
type
you
A.
tell us?
That's not offensive to me. I feel like type A, we get a lot of things done. We get it done, but we don't make ourselves a priority. And so I do like to help with that because I've had to learn all of that again the hard way myself. And definitely
Right.
not loving and lighting it away because that wasn't my experience. My experience was to kind of trudge through it to get to the other side. And I think that that's what real work is. And I really like that, what they talk about sometime, spiritual bypassing, because I feel like what I'm hearing from what you're saying is that's what, like those are the people that are like, yay, just be positive all the time. And I tried that and people pleasing. And the only thing it did was set me up to be resentful and bitter and not happy. And I still had to do the work anyway after that.
Debbie Ford used to say, if you're just doing affirmations, like they can be great, but you have to do, she says, it's like putting ice cream on top of a pile of poop. And
Yes.
I'm like, that's a powerful, disgusting image. But because for years, I remember I listened to Deepak Chopra and Marianne Williamson and Louise Hay, but I hadn't done any of the deeper trauma
Insight.
work. I didn't know. And so I mean, I think it did help me a little bit, but
Yeah.
it wasn't until I did some of that deeper work with Landmark and then recovery and stuff, then that could really sink in more. So is that something that you do, Jackie, with your clients?
Okay, yes. So I am currently still severely ADHD and
What?
anxiety
I wouldn't
ridden.
know what you're talking about.
Yes. And I have a lot of anxiety and I went undiagnosed for a long time and I'm not on any medication. So when I had to learn how to meditate, that was difficult for somebody like me because my brain is a very fast processing and then my body is like this. So to get your body to stop on the outside and your mind to stop on the inside is a very tall order. And so I had to learn things like sound healing and going to crystal bull meditations and things like that. And those specific types of things actually helped my mind and my body to relax, which is kind of where the spiritual stuff started coming in. Not so much like I went to Catholic school, so I'm a Reformed Catholic. My apologies out there to anybody who is religious. I have nothing against religion. I just had a terrible experience. And through that, grew me opening up to other things. And then once I got into recovery, my first sponsor told me, well, why don't you go check out all the other ones and see if you like any of them? And what I found in doing that little research and development procedure or whatever you want to call it, adventure, was I like going to some of the other churches, but that I realized that God or whatever you believe in or divine universe, whatever it is for you, it's just bigger than that. It's just bigger than religion. It's bigger than that. Like when I walk outside and I look at the stars and the sea and the rainbows, and it's just bigger than, than a church or somebody's man-made rules. So I just don't box it up anymore, but I also don't impose it or push it or wish it on other people. And I certainly don't shame other people for having the beliefs that they have. I try to allow everybody to have the beliefs that they have, and I don't try to change them. I would love to have respect and to be heard in reciprocally, but sometimes that doesn't happen.
I love that. I love that so much. And, I'm still learning. There's always another modality I'm learning about. Can you tell if somebody has heard about sound healing, but they don't really know what it is? Like I've experienced it and found it very powerful. Can you speak to that for a little bit?
Well, sound healing, all right. So first of all, sound, has been known scientifically. So it's not some airy fairy woo woo metaphysical thing, has been scientifically proven to help heal the body and the mind for thousands and thousands of years. Hence the, those Tibetan, metal singing bowls and things like that. And people use tuning forks. In fact, doctors still, used to use tuning forks to, diagnose people. And it's the frequencies The frequencies, we vibrate at certain frequencies. The musical instruments vibrate at certain frequencies. The planet vibrates at certain frequencies. And what happens is, and when you're somebody like me, we'll just use me as an example. I'm ADHD. I'm all over the place. I'm scattered. I'm this, I'm that, right? So that would be an out of balance kind of situation, right? So that what the sound healing does is it brings your body and your mind and everything else back into resonance, which is what you want. When you're in resonance, you're at peace. When you're not in resonance, you're like this, you're vibrating all over the place, but you've also have you seen things like, probably on like Facebook or Instagram or something, the cymatics and stuff like that, when they put vibration on sand, how it makes all those beautiful mandalas and sacred geometry images. It's just amazing what happens when you vibrate at certain frequencies. So different frequencies can help to actually heal the body. And you can go down a rabbit hole, Googling all of that kind of stuff.
All that stuff.
I'm not an expert in any of that by any means. I just know what has worked for me. And my body loves sound, like singing bowls and things like that.
I love that. Well, we have a mutual friend, Liz, who we both just adore.
Yes.
And when she first started doing her crystal bowls, she needed guinea pigs. And I'm always like, oh, I'll be a guinea pig. And I would just lay there and she would play them, and a bunch of us would, be her, and we all felt so good.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, our bodies are 78% water, 92, I don't know, we're made up a lot of water, and our cells. And so that's been, the experience of crystal bowls has been amazing. And then I've done gong baths.
Yeah, those are great too.
The first time I was like, okay, Lane, are you losing it? But to have this powerful gong, and you feel the waves washing over your body as you're laying on your yoga mat. It is so cool. Like, I want everybody to have that experience.
Me too. But, and also think about it. Think about indigenous tribes, right? When they're drumming and they're chanting and they're, in their own languages, you can feel that if you've ever been to another country when they're doing that. There's nothing like that, because you can feel it vibrating through your whole body.
I love that. And Jacquie, another thing I feel like it's important for people to know about you. I mean, you're such just a badass. You have traveled. You're such a seeker. And so I know you've been on these amazing spiritual journeys. You've been to Egypt. You just came back from the UK. Can you share a story or two about what you learned from your recent adventures?
Okay, so when I started doing spiritual work and I started doing me work and really doing the deep dive on myself and really healing myself and really coming back to learning who I was and remembering who I am, and I'm still doing that. I feel like that is everybody's goal on this planet. We all are here for different reasons. You have your mission and I have mine, but everybody's mission, my belief, is that we're all here to remember who we really are, not the stuff we make up in our heads, but who we really are, and that we're pure love and joy and things like that. And that's sometimes a lifetime work for people, and then to also do our mission. But when you start to do this work and you listen to your intuition, you start getting called. And when you start getting called to go to places and things, you may not even realize that you want to go. Like, I've always wanted to go to France and Paris, right? Because my family's from France and on my dad's side, and I didn't get to go when I was a kid. So I have always wanted to go to Paris. I've still not been to Paris, but I've been to France twice because I've been called to like the south of France to go to different like sacred sites. Like, all of a sudden in the last decade or so, I've just had these inner callings to go to these sacred places in Peru and Egypt and Mount Shasta, California, and these just high vibe places, Sedona, the south of France, numerous places in the south of France. And we just got back from the south of France and also in Glastonbury in the UK. These are just high vibes, sacred sites. And not only if you see all over the internet, well, my internet, because my algorithms have everybody doing the same kinds of the things that you do show up in your algorithm, right? So I see everybody going to Glastonbury and everybody going to UK. So I'm like, what is going on that we're all getting called to these places? And it's kind of cool because you see the movement of it, like that it's not just you're opening up and you're kind of tuning in to those frequencies that we were talking about, and you listen to your inner callings. And when you get called to those places, it's just magical. Again, nobody's paying me to do this, but when I get back and I tell stories about it, people are like, oh, I want to go and do that. And I want to go and do this or whatever. And I don't know whether they're called or not, which is why I definitely want to start at some point doing probably retreats to those places. Oh. But I don't want to just bring people who just think it's a fun story. Like, that's not my goal. I would want to do it just like I got called. I would want to attract the people who felt called to not only go, but to go with me or whatever. But I definitely feel like that's where it's probably heading. But for right now, like I said, nobody's paying me to go there. I just feel so called to go there. I know I'll get to Paris eventually.
Oh, you will. You absolutely will.
I could live in France. Like, I could just live there on bread and crepes alone and be very happy for the rest of my life.
I want to introduce you. I have a new friend who has this amazing home that's also been like a VRBO with little suites, and it's in the south of France. And I was like, you have to shoot more video about your life. She's a life coach, and yes. So cool. Yeah, I love that.
In the land of the magical. I just love it there. Just to be in the woods and on the mountains. I get called to the mountains and the caves and the pyramids, and I just want to go. And when I go to these places, I just want to be on the land the whole time. Like, you're barely in your hotel. You're so tired because you were just out all day, like, just out on the land. It's so beautiful.
Being in nature. I love it.
And really connecting. Like, that's why we're here. That's why we're here, to help the planet. Like, those are things where when I'm on the land there, I know I'm there for a bigger purpose that I don't even know what it is yet. And I know I will know at some point, but I don't even know now. All I know is I'm answering the call, and the rest of it will be revealed when it's meant to be.
I love that. So, Jackie, if somebody's listening and they know, like, oh, I think I need her, what is the best way to find you?
Okay, so I am currently evolving, right? I'm constantly seeking and evolving. So, of course, I have my original website, which I've kind of been outgrowing. And so now I'm evolving into the new website. But my original website is still up, and it's JacquieGrillon.com, which I'm sure will be in your show notes.
And it will be. And it's JacquieGrillon.
Yep. .com.
Okay.
Yep.
.com.
And the new website, which I pretty much just put up just to have like the free gift and an opt-in and just a little blurb about me, but that's where it's really going to be evolving, is Jacquie, JACQUIE, inspires.com. So that will be
I love that.
dot to come.
I love that. And, I want to highlight something that Jackie just did. So I've been in this transformational space for, 24 years. And so many times I am meeting amazing women who are healers and therapists and teachers and coaches and consultants. And so many times women are like, well, my website, and there's a lot of shame and embarrassment and judgment.
Yeah.
I love that you were just like, hey, I'm a work in progress and I'm evolving. Guess what? Every time I update my website, by the time the updates actually happen,
I'm not even
I feel
that
like
person.
I've already morphed, because I'm always working on my healing and my evolution and my skill set and all the things. But I love it that you just said that so like unapologetically, and like, yeah, I'm evolving and this is what it is, and it's going to be this, and you can come to either one. But there was no like shame or self-judgment. I just felt like, yeah, we're all evolving, I mean, think about even like McDonald's, they close down when they redo their stores. I mean, that's not the best analogy for us, but like, it's, if you are a human being, you are a work in progress, and you are not, even if it feels the same, you're not the same, right? A lot of times we get in these stupid thought bubble, circle patterns, whatever you want to call it. But,
right.
we're evolving. And I always like, I just posted, you'll get a kick out of this. I posted a video yesterday about go vote and how I was inspired by our process and hopefully we can heal. And one of my eyelashes is like completely jacked up.
Oh, I
And I
saw that
decided,
video and you were unapologetic about it. You're like, you know
and I
what?
was like,
I love what I said and I'm happy about it.
and and I had a few haters going on
Really?
YouTube, like you might want to do. And I said, I know my eyelashes messed up, but I was coming from the heart. I'm super busy, and I felt compelled to share that. And then I had other people like defending me. So anyway, I kind of did it as an experiment to see what would happen. And not that I'm, trying to put out messed up things, but I
Of
I
course
just kind
not.
of wanted to see what would happen.
Right.
And I'm not teaching makeup, thank God, because I feel like I'm very
Yeah,
mediocre.
I'm not the
I'm
girl
not
for that
teaching,
as well.
I'm
Right.
not teaching beauty. I'm talking about authentically connecting and telling stories and
From your
speaking and
heart,
things like that. Yeah,
not your
and so
mind.
yeah, and so another thing I would just encourage anybody who's listening is like, instead of coming from that place of trying to be perfect, trying to people please, you may not realize you're recovering people pleaser, but I think most women are,
I suffer
is
from
thinking,
that disease.
yeah, I mean, I'm still working on that, but thinking, what I tell myself is, if this offends anybody, then we're not meant to work together. Like, if somebody's going to judge me, like I've had people criticize my neck. I'm 56 years old. I do not want to spend the money, nor do I have the budget right now to spend $10,000 on a neck lift or whatever the hell
I'm
you
58,
do.
but I know
I,
exactly what you mean. Like
I,
like I can't apologize for those things. And you know what? I absolutely agree with you that you, first of all, if I have to people please you, you're not my people. And second of all,
right.
our people will find us. If somebody's looking at your eyelash and not hearing what you were sharing from the heart, because I saw the video, like you sent an email to us,
Email or something.
and
Yeah.
I saw the picture before I even started the video, but I also knew what it was about, so I listened to the message. Like, I wasn't looking at the eyelash. I mean, that was just like a funny little thing, but I wasn't connecting with that. So I feel like the people who are there to connect with you don't care about that, and the people who are commenting on your eyelash are basically like the same. There's so many people online that it's all about what it looks like, and they're never going to be either one of our peoples. They're just not.
Right.
That's not who we attract. We don't attract superficial, like that's not my land anymore, unfortunately.
Right. And I wanted to share that, not like I'm so great, but if
No, you're
if
human.
perfectionism,
Yeah,
or just if somebody keeps holding themselves back from maybe reaching out to talk to Jackie, or maybe making a video, or something, if you can think of, this is meant for the people who will find it. Think of it as
exactly.
like a dog whistle, like only certain dogs can hear it or whatever. So anyway, Jackie, this has been so much fun. I can feel like I could talk to you for days, and I
Same.
definitely want to have you on the podcast again. Thank you so much for being one of my very first guests on Captivate the Mic.
I
The
adore
the
you.
mission is to, elevate women who are doing amazing work. I have goosebumps. And to also give tips on storytelling. And I have to say, your stories were great. You
All
took
right.
pauses. You had vocal variety. You had fabulous energy, and you had ups and downs and pauses, and you had energy. And I think most importantly is you spoke from the heart, and your eye contact was phenomenal.
I'm
So
looking at the lens. So thank you, Elaine, for helping me look at the lens, which is, if you know me, is the hardest thing that I've had to do this entire time. And I'm great with people and I'm great on stages, but this little camera, I'm not going to let it win. I'm not going to let it win. I'm going to have to just fall in love with the little lens and get over the fact that I really just want to connect with somebody's eyes, because that's where I want to look. But I'm learning. And this is
you're
my work, right? You got to do
you're
what
learning, and you're doing great. You're
and through
doing
the
great. So
uncomfortability. That's our work, right? Walk through the things you don't want to, but you feel called to do.
deep breaths, deep breaths. So awesome. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for
Bye now.
watching.
Thank you,
Okay,
Elaine.
bye. Okay.